I was scared too, Esther. You know, you're such a tiny little thing. All I want to do is to protect you, leave the moon and all the trimmings. And all I have ever been able to give you is just a piece of this good earth and one another. I guess that's about all anyone's meant to have.
In the wholesome world of 1970s television, the Waltons stood as a beacon of family values and simple living. Every week, millions of viewers tuned in to follow the adventures of the Walton family, finding comfort in the show's portrayal of a close-knit rural community facing the challenges of the Great Depression. At the heart of this beloved series was Grandpa Zebulon Walton, the wise and gentle patriarch played to perfection by Will Geer. With his twinkling eyes and folksy charm, Geer's Grandpa Zeb became an icon of American television, embodying the ideals of kindness, wisdom, and traditional values. But behind the scenes, the man who brought Grandpa Zeb to life harbored a secret that would have shocked the show's conservative audience. Will Geer, the actor behind the beloved character, lived a life far more complex and controversial than his on-screen persona suggested. From his involvement in leftist politics to his hidden romantic life, Geer's story is a fascinating glimpse into the realities of being a gay man in mid-20th century America. The Man Behind Grandpa Zeb.
I know it's early in the morning, but Will Geer is here, and I think we're going to have lunch. Will, is this something good in this bag here?
No, that's a bag that my daughter Ellen Geer made for me. She was on the Jimmy Stewart show last year.
Yeah.
And she noticed I was always losing things in my old age, so she made a bag that contains my scripts and old nuts and bolts and seeds and fishing hooks and all the sort of things an old gentleman likes to carry around with him. Prom notes, you know, or about when Cornelia Kennedy was my sweetheart in the Frankfurt High School note for Greenville.
Will Geer was born William Aug Geer on March 9, 1902, in Frankfurt, Indiana. His early life was marked by a love for botany, which remained a lifelong passion. Geer's path to acting was not straightforward. He initially pursued academia, earning a master's degree in botany from the University of Chicago. But the allure of the stage proved too strong, and Geer soon found himself touring with tent shows and riverboat productions. Geer's acting career began to flourish in the 30s and 40s. He appeared in numerous plays and revues, creating notable roles such as Mr. in the Federal Theater Project's production of The Cradle Will Rock. His talent didn't go unnoticed in Hollywood, and he began appearing in films, including Winchester 73, where he played Wyatt Earp. But it was his role as Grandpa Zebulon Zeb Walton in the long-running TV series The Waltons that cemented Geer's place in the hearts of American viewers. From 1972 until his death in 78, he brought warmth, wisdom, and humor to the character, earning him an Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series in 1975. A life of activism and controversy.
Will, of course, carried with him not just his larger-than-life personality and sensibility, but he carried with him the blacklist.
Behind the scenes, Will Geer led a life that was far from the conservative values espoused by the Waltons. In the 30s and 40s, Geer was deeply involved in labor organizing and other leftist movements. He was a member of the Communist Party, a fact that later had serious consequences for his career. He was also a passionate advocate for workers' rights, often touring government work camps of the Civilian Conservation Corps with folk singers like Burl Ives and Woody Guthrie. In fact, Geer is credited with introducing Guthrie to left-wing publications like The People's World and The Daily Worker. This political activism came at a cost. In the early 50s, at the height of the Red Scare, Geer found himself blacklisted in Hollywood. He had refused to testify before the House Committee on Un-American Activities, a decision that effectively barred him from working in mainstream film and television for several years. During this time, he turned to alternative projects, including the controversial film Salt of the Earth, which told the story of a miners' strike from a pro-union perspective. The Secret Life of Will Geer.
I thought once before, I flirted a lot with Emmy a couple of times, and I flirted even with Tony and with Oscar. I'm so glad that they finally got me into a category. You know, when you get to an age, this age, you appreciate things of that sort. I thank all the old people all across the country, the fathers and the mothers, and especially the children in the school, because I know the children in the school will not stand for having their elders told at what time they may or may not see a program.
While Geer's political activism was well known, at least within certain circles, there was another aspect of his life that remained hidden from the public eye: his sexuality. In an era when being openly gay could end a career in Hollywood, Geer lived a carefully compartmentalized life. In 1934, he married actress Herta Ware. The couple had 3 children, Kate, Ellen, and Thad. From the outside, it appeared to be a conventional marriage, but the reality was far more complex. Around the time he married Ware, Geer was involved in a romantic relationship with Harry Hay, who later would become a pioneering gay rights activist. Hay described falling, quote, madly in love with Geer when they met while working in the theater. Their relationship was more than just romantic. Geer also served as a political mentor to Hay, introducing him to leftist politics and eventually recruiting him into the Communist Party. The relationship between Geer and Hay was intense but ultimately short-lived. According to some sources, Geer ended the relationship because he wanted children and preferred to have a straight partner for that purpose. But it's unclear whether Geer's marriage to Ware marked a complete end to his same-sex relationships or if he continued living a double life. What is clear is that Geer was open about his sexuality with his wife. Despite this honesty, the marriage lasted for 20 years before ending in divorce in 1954. The complexity of the relationship was evident even after Geer's death. At his funeral, Hay reportedly told Ware, "I had him first," to which she responded, "I had him longest." The burden of secrecy.
In every large organization, like every big firm, every civil service department, the armed forces and so on, there must be hundreds, even thousands. If all the homosexuals were to leave their jobs simultaneously, the economy of the country would be thrown into something like chaos.
Living with such a significant secret undoubtedly took its toll on Geer. In the Hollywood of the 50s and 60s, being openly gay was not an option for most actors, especially those playing family-friendly roles. The fear of exposure and the potential consequences for his career must have been a constant source of stress. This burden of secrecy was not unique to Geer. His co-star on The Waltons, Ellen Corby, who played Grandma Esther Walton, was also reportedly in a long-term same-sex relationship that she kept hidden from the public. Corby lived with her friend, Stella Lucetta, for 45 years, only openly acknowledging their love on her deathbed. The pressures to maintain a heterosexual public image often led to what were known as lavender marriages in Hollywood, marriages of convenience between gay men and lesbian women or between gay individuals and understanding heterosexual partners. These arrangements allowed LGBTQ+ actors to pursue their careers while providing a shield against public scrutiny and potential backlash. Geer's artistic and political journey.
I've heard some rather disturbing reports about you.
Such as?
Such as the fact that you're spending so much time with people who are nothing but communists.
Nothing but communists. Well, maybe there's nothing but communism for people who aren't afraid to think.
Geer started his career in the theater, where he honed his craft and developed his political consciousness. The 30s were a time of great social and political upheaval, and Geer found himself drawn to the radical left. He became involved with the Group Theater in New York, a collective known for its politically charged productions and method acting techniques. During this time, Geer's activism and his art became increasingly intertwined. He used his platform as an actor to advocate for social justice causes, often performing at rallies and benefit concerts. His relationship with Woody Guthrie was particularly influential, and the two often collaborated on performances that blended music and political messages. His film career took off in the 40s, with appearances in notable movies such as Deep Waters and Intruder in the Dust. But his rising star was abruptly halted by the Hollywood blacklist. Unable to work in Hollywood, Geer turned his attention back to the theater and his love of botany. He and his wife, Herta Ware, founded the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum in Topanga, California in 1951. This outdoor theater became a haven for blacklisted artists and a unique space where Geer could combine his passions for performance and plants. The Waltons and late career renaissance.
It's about real people. That's what I like about Earl Hanmer Jr. He's written it about himself, really, much in the same way Thomas wrote about his life over there in the border town.
You get a chance to read the scripts, and I'm sure you did before you accepted this part as Grandpa in The Waltons. Did it smack of
authenticity?
The real thing?
Yes, it was real. It was had a sense of nostalgia to me because I grew up in those times.
Geer's return to mainstream entertainment came in the twilight of his career, but it proved his most memorable role. When he was cast as Grandpa Walton in 1972, Geer was 70 years old and had largely been forgotten by Hollywood. But his portrayal of the wise, kind-hearted patriarch quickly endeared him to a new generation of viewers. The irony of Geer, a once blacklisted communist, playing the grandfather in a show that celebrated traditional American values, was not lost on those who knew his history. Yet Geer brought a depth and authenticity to the role that transcended political divides. His Grandpa Zeb was funny, stubborn, and full of homespun wisdom, qualities that Geer himself possessed in abundance. His work on the Waltons allowed him to reach a wider audience than ever before, and he used this platform to continue his advocacy work, albeit in a more subtle manner. He often spoke about environmental issues and the importance of preserving nature, drawing on his botanical knowledge. Now it's time to hear from you. How do you think Will Geer's story might have been different if he lived in today's more accepting society? Let us know in the comments section below.